You are listening to Bhagavad Gita for All, a practical guide for everyday life, a lecture series by Nala Narula, recorded in front of a live audience. Chapter 1, Observing the Armies on the Battlefield and the Consequences of War.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So the last time we had discussed chapter 1, text number 24. The continuity of the text 24 is Sañjaya speaks. Evam mukto Hṛṣīkeśaḥ Gudakeshena Bharata Senayor Ubhayor Madhye Sthapityatva Rathottamam. Sañjaya said, O descendant of Bharata, addressing Dhritarashtra, being thus addressed by Arjuna, Lord Kṛṣṇa drew up the fine chariot in the midst of the armies of both the parties. Now, Arjuna is referred to here as Gudakesha, meaning one who has conquered sleep, and as mentioned last time, sleep also means ignorance. So, how has Arjuna conquered sleep? Because he is connected to the divine. He is a devotee of Kṛṣṇa, a friend of Kṛṣṇa's, and his whole consciousness is always connected to Kṛṣṇa. So when he is in Kṛṣṇa consciousness, when anybody is in spiritual consciousness, they can easily overcome ignorance that comes with sleep or a lack of awareness. And Hṛṣīkeśaḥ, Kṛṣṇa, the master of the senses and the mind of every living entity, is there drawing and controlling Arjuna's chariot. And this is a very good understanding that within each of us the divine is there, and if we permit, he will guide us in the right path, but we have to tell him clearly which direction we want to go. So it's not that he's automatically taking you there, but he's willing to take you wherever you want to go. That is his service to us, which is kind of not really comprehensible, how the divine is wanting to serve us. So then we have the next text, 25. Bhīṣma Droṇa pramukhataha sarvesam ca mahīkshitam uvacha Pārtha pasyaitam samavetan kurun iti. In the presence of Bhīṣma, Droṇa, and all the other chieftains of the armies of the world, Hṛṣīkeśaḥ, the Lord, master of the senses and the mind, said, just behold, Pārtha, all the Kurus who are assembled here. It's a huge army of the greatest warriors the world has ever known, and he's saying, behold them, the Kurus. Then, text 26. Tatra pasyat sthitan Pārtha pitrun natha pitamahan acharyan matulan bhratrin putran pautran sakhins tatha swasuran suhridaschaiva senayorubhayorapi. There Arjuna could see standing within the midst of both the armies, both sides, his fathers, those who were in the position of his fathers and ancestors, caregivers, grandfathers, teachers, maternal uncles, brothers, sons, grandsons, friends, and also his father-in-law and well-wishers, all of them were present there. All the relatives, like Bhūrishrava, who were his father's contemporaries, almost like a father to him in terms of the position he occupied. Grandfather Bhīṣma, Somdat, Droṇacharya, the teachers who taught them the act of warfare, how to be good warriors. Kṛpācārya, maternal uncles like Shalya and Shakuni, brothers like Duryodhan, sons like Lakshmana, friends like Ashwathama, and well-wishers like Kritavarma, and so on and so many more. And he could also see that the armies contained many of his friends on both sides, especially the Kaurav side. So this is quite a sight for him to actually see and come to the realization that now we are going to be killing each other in this battle, if this battle starts. So then we have text 27. Tan samikshya sa kauntayaha sarvan bandhun avasthitan kripaya parayavishto Vishidan idam abravit. Vishidan. Kripaya. Kripaya means overcome by a compassion, and Vishidan means lamenting, sad. After seeing all of them, Arjuna saw all these different grades of friends and relatives. He became overwhelmed with loving compassion for them all, and then he spoke in sadness, lamenting. Arjuna Vacha, text 28. Drishtve-mam swajanam Kṛṣṇa yuyutsum samupastitam siddhanti mama gatrani mukham cha parishyusyati. Arjuna spoke to Kṛṣṇa, "My dear Kṛṣṇa, I see my friends and relatives present here before me, ready to fight with such a fighting spirit, and I feel the limbs of my body quivering, and my mouth is drying up." He is absolutely distraught, completely upset. Why is that? Because he could tell that many of them will die here today. And these are friends, relatives, people that we have met, that we have played with, people who have given us love and affection. And at the end of it all, what is happening? We are going to kill each other. Terrible, terrible thing. Text 29. Vepathuscha sharire me romaharshascha jayate gandivam sramsate hastat tvakchaiva paridhayate. Vapatu, trembling, sharire, my whole body is trembling. Romaharsh, my hair are standing on end, my body hair are standing on end. And my bow, the great Gandiv, is slipping from my hands, my skin is burning. I am just panic-stricken, basically. These are all symptoms of panic attack. So these are not a spiritual ecstasy or something, but it is out of fear. And what is the greatest fear? Loss of life, loss of one's own bodily vehicle, so that gives you an idea, gives a person an idea that I shall cease to exist. So Arjuna is overcome with this great fear of death. He is in material consciousness now, although he has Kṛṣṇa right next to him. Text 30, chapter 1. Nacha shahunmi avasthatum brahmaitiva chami mana nimittani cha pashyami viparitani Keshava. I am now unable to stand here any longer, Arjuna tells Kṛṣṇa. I am forgetting myself. My mind is spinning, it's reeling, and I only see great evil. I do not see anything good happening here. And then he addresses Kṛṣṇa as Keshava, O killer of the demon Keshi. So he is thinking very deeply that I'm very attached to these people. I'm attached to my own body, of course. And I'm attached to all these people. These people are all the expansions of my body or connections of my body, my family, my greater family, and so on. He's thinking that all these things are there, and he's wondering, what am I doing here? Why am I here with this? Because I don't want to be responsible for all this lamentation and heartbreak and death and pain that is going to be happening. So, the Keshi demon word, Keshava, killer of the Keshi demon. Now, the Keshi demon was the personification of the false ego. So he is actually asking Kṛṣṇa, destroy my false ego. Kṛṣṇa is the destroyer of Keshi demon because he destroyed the false ego demon. So Arjuna knows these attachments are coming from the bodily conception of life, and he's requesting Kṛṣṇa, please, in a hidden way, in a subtle way, he is asking for help. And that's confirmed by text 31. Nacha shreyo anupashyami hatva swajanam mahave nakankshe vijayam Kṛṣṇa na cha rajyam sukhani cha. Shreya, na shreya, nothing good, anupashyami, do I foresee happening, by hatva, killing, swajanam, my own kinsmen, my own people, my own relatives, ahave, in the fight, nakankshe, nor do I desire vijayam, victory, Kṛṣṇa, nacha rajyam sukhani cha, I do not desire any subsequent victory, any kingdom, or any happiness that might come out of that. I do not want to do this. Very depressed, very sad, very upset. Completely, Arjuna has lost his balance. So without knowing what is one's real self-interest, which is to be connecting to the divine and following the path of the divine of Kṛṣṇa, all the conditioned souls, which is the nitya baddha, the materially bound souls that are here, the jivatmas, they're all attracted by bodily relationships, and they expect to be happy because of these bodily relationships, and do not pay that much attention to their eternal relationship with Kṛṣṇa, with the divine. So in this whole process, Arjuna has been so overcome by false ego considerations, by fear, by anxiety, panic attack, that he has forgotten his dharma. He has forgotten his occupational duty as a warrior, as a kshatriya. He is reluctant to kill even his enemies, let alone his relatives. He feels that there is nothing left for him and he will not be able to gain anything. So he is not very, you can say, enthusiastic at all for fighting. Text 32 to 35 confirms this. Kim no rajyena govinda Kim bhoger jivetena va yesham arthe kankshitam no Rajyam bhoga sukhani cha. Taime avistita yuddhe pranam tyaktva dhanani cha. Acharya pitara putras tathaiva cha pitamaha. Matula swasura pautra Shayala sambandhinas tatha etan hantum ichhami gnato api madhusudana api trailokya rajyasya hetu kimnu mahi krite nihatya dhartarashtranaha ka priti syaja janardana. What is the use of this Rajyena, this kingdom, Govinda, O Krishna? What enjoyment, bhogata, what enjoyment, jivatena, by living, will I get? Because, why? Because for all those whom we may want these things, these victories, we may want the kingdoms or even life itself, when for whom we desire this are all now in front of me in the battlefield, and I am expected to fight with them and kill them, or they will kill me. O Madhusudan, where teachers, fathers, sons, grandfathers, maternal uncles, fathers-in-law, grandsons, grandfathers, brothers-in-law, relatives are all ready to give up their lives and properties, all standing before me, why should I wish to kill them, even though I may survive? Why should I do that? O maintainer of all creatures, Janardana, O maintainer of all living creatures, I am not prepared to fight with them, even in exchange for the three worlds, let alone this earth planet. I am not interested in fighting. I give up. Govinda, one who satisfies the senses. He refers to Krishna as Govinda, the object of pleasure for the cows and the senses, to whom the senses are naturally drawn. Go means cows, and it also means the senses. Govinda, to whom the senses are naturally drawn, attracted. But we try to satisfy our senses instead of trying to satisfy the senses of Govinda. If we try and satisfy Govinda, Krishna, all our senses get naturally satisfied, because that is the natural direction and the natural order of things. So Arjuna has some affection, some love for people, of his family, of his community, and he is saying that even if I win all the kingdoms, people in the material world like to show off their achievements to others within the community, and they're doing things to impress others. And if there are no others to be impressed, Arjuna is saying, in other words, if these people are going to die, what is the use of my getting? Because there's nobody here going to enjoy at seeing my success. So, it's kind of a downer. I'll gain everything and nobody will say, wow, what a great job you did. Because I'll be dead. Then, this is the material calculation. I will earn so much, I will impress the people, and I will do this just to give people a emotional black eye, so to speak, in your face. And he has forgotten that when a Kshatriya dies on the battlefield in front of the divine, he goes to the sun planet, and he is appreciated, his glories are sung in all the three worlds. He's forgotten all that. That's some future benefit which he is not interested in. He's saying, right now, if I do all this, kill my relatives, nobody will be there to show off to, basically. So it's complete materialistic thinking, illusion. And then he's going to try and justify it. He has come up with this materialistic thinking, and going forward in the next few shlokas, he's going to try and give some very intelligent rationale and reasoning as to why actually he's acting on spiritual grounds and religious grounds and moral grounds not to fight. He's going to try and convince himself, and obviously he's seeking Krishna's approval for it, that you also endorse my feeling that I really don't think I should kill because killing is not good. But again, he has forgotten his Kshatriya Dharma, which is to kill, if needed, on the battlefield, to protect the righteous, to protect the innocent. That's his job. But he has forgotten it completely. Overcome by Maya, by false ego, by bodily considerations, by materialistic considerations, thinking my victory will be ashes and hollow if there's nobody around to appreciate it. So this is a very telling situation that happened 6,000 years ago on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, even to somebody like Arjuna. What to speak of anybody else here today? So it is very, very applicable. This is Bhagavad Gita for all. It is relevant to each and every one of us today, because we are going through the same kind of thing that Arjuna went through in a smaller or greater way. So we will pause our reading of the Bhagavad Gita at this text 35, and if you have any questions, I shall be happy to try and answer them for you. Yes.
So from the last paragraphs only,
yes.
the shlokas we had, I have two questions.
Okay.
Seeking clarifications or guidance from you.
Certainly.
One is, why do we have to be pompous or show off? Like Arjuna thoughts are there. It practically happens with us also. Why do we do that?
You tell me, why do you want to show off? This is the same reason. Arjuna had the same reason. I want to show off because I want to be superior.
Superior, maybe want to get attention.
And want to get attention, and I want to get appreciation.
Appreciation.
Yes.
Second question is, sir, in this also, why do we most of the time seek for an approval, like Arjuna is trying to seek in this shloka from Lord Krishna?
Because everybody wants religious or spiritual endorsement for all the nonsense they're doing. Everybody is trying to quote Bhagavad Gita or other scriptures in favor of whatever rubbish they're doing, which is actually against the path. So Arjuna is doing exactly the same thing. He is wanting endorsement for his path, which is actually not the right path that he is following, but he is going to try and get endorsement from the divine. So this is an absolute pattern that people follow even today, that if I want to do something, I will quote the scriptures. In the Christian tradition, they have a saying, the devil quotes the scriptures for his own purpose. So there is a bit of a devil inside everyone, in the sense that we would like to quote scriptures to buttress our position for whatever we want to do, and we will use that as an endorsement and say even the divine is approving. Now the divine is not here to talk to us directly, but he is talking to us through Bhagavad Gita, and Arjuna is us. Arjuna is every one of us. Arjuna is every man who has, every woman, every child who has experienced these things, as you have pointed out. That's all of us. So we should take guidance from what Kṛṣṇa will say as we go forward, reading the Bhagavad Gita in the days that follow. So does that answer your question?
So I just would like to extend the second question.
Extend the second question, yes.
Is it, there are two ways we act. One is we think and we act. Second thing is we think and we look for a reassurance. So is it something we are not sure, so that's why we are looking at, or we know it's something not very correct?
We are looking to project the proper public face, the mask of the false ego, so that I appear to be a good guy. Nobody wants to be a villain. No villain is thinking he's being a villain. Very few, unless you're a psychopath. Then you don't even care. You have no concept of good and bad in any case. This is not the case here. So it is the Keshi demon, the false ego. So the false ego has to be turned inside out, as Krishna did to Keshi eventually. And he came in the form of an ass. Ultimately he was an ass. So the Keshi demon of the ego has to be vanquished. So everybody has that. Any other questions? Yes.
So the Lord is referred as various names,
Yes.
Janardana,
Yes.
Vasudeva, etc.
Yeah.
So Arjuna is referring this to the Lord as their names in various forms. So does he know in his back of his heart that, that is where I'm projecting myself?
Of course, he is using those names as referring to Krishna's pastimes. Like Janardhan means the one who is protecting and giving life to all living entities. So he is now appealing to him in a very subtle way that how can you, as a protector, approve this killing? Arjuna is very subtly trying to tell him that. And then he is addressing him as Govinda, the one to whom everyone is attracted. So why are we going to kill each other? If we are attracted to you, aren't we all brothers in arms and brothers in direction and sisters in direction? And we're all going towards you. Why do you want us to kill? Why do you want me to kill these guys? These are my relatives. These are my friends. We are all on the same path towards you because you are Govinda. So these are arguments that we have within ourselves also from time to time. And we forget what is our duty. Ultimately, it is your duty that overrides all considerations, even familial considerations. In fact, we are living through this process in the last few months, as you know, ourselves. So we are going on spiritual grounds for the what is our actual duty in terms of what is our mission in life. And we will not tolerate even relatives, no matter who they may be, who try and obstruct this mission. So that is actually the dharma of every person, whether you're a Kshatriya or a Brahmin or a Shudra or a Vaishya or anyone at all. You must not forget your duty. Your duty is paramount, so nothing comes in the way, even relatives don't, actually. Should not. So which is why we are going through this personal process also. And we are very happy for it. So the lessons of the Bhagavad Gita are not theoretical. They are for everyone, for every day. And it has meaning. It has depth. It's not some imaginary, impractical thing at all. It's real and it's powerful. And if you use its message with wisdom, if you understand it and you follow your directionality towards Govinda, the one who attracts every living entity. Narayan is another word to whom all the living entities flow naturally. Narayan. All the living entities flow towards Narayan automatically like a stream. So Arjuna is trying to use all these appellations of Krishna. He didn't use Narayan, but Govinda is equivalent. That, everybody is flowing towards you, why we should kill each other. I'd rather not. And in any case, if I kill them, who's there to appreciate what I've achieved, so that's no fun. If you don't have an audience, what's the fun? There'll be no pleasure, preeti, by killing the sons of Dhritarashtra, Dhartarashtra. No pleasure. O Janardhan, maintainer of all living entities. So you can understand because you're the maintainer, so you shouldn't ask me to unmaintain them, to de-maintain them. So you should know better. He's telling God, you should know better than this. So that is the false ego position. We are telling God, don't you know? Yes.
So Arjuna's position is understandable, like life and death situation is in. But how is it relevant to us, like every day?
Of course it's relevant to you. Don't you take this kind of attitude every day? With your relatives, with your friends, with your co-workers, with the people you work with? You are having the same considerations of putting on a public mask. Internally you're feeling something else. The cause for that is something else, but you are portraying it as something very noble. All your decisions are cloaked in nobility. And one tug and all the clothes come off instantly. And you're revealed fully in your naked false ego glory. So we like to cover up our false ego. So this applies to us, absolutely it applies to us.
So we're living in pretense all the time.
Aren't we? We pretend. We have different masks for different occasions, different shloks for different folks. Pull them out, quote the scriptures to suit our purposes. So if you stay on the main line of your journey and you know where you're going, then you won't be terribly distracted. You may be somewhat occasionally distracted, but you can always come back online. ठीक है ना? Yes, you had a question, Anil.
Sir, it's a totally different anxiety or question I have.
All right.
Just like we are influenced by 5 elements or 5 senses.
Okay.
And at times I feel that the element of doubt and suspicion is that as big as these elements, or it which affects our lives in a positive or negative way? How the doubt and suspicion controls our life, or how it leads?
Are you asking me if it controls your life, or don't you know that? Whether it does or doesn't?
I know that. But
So the elements, the basic 5, the Panch Tattva are passive in a way. But this is very active. So this is a different kind of element. This doubt and suspicion and mistrust. You have to understand why it's there. And what is it seeking to do. If somebody is deliberately creating mistrust on a systematic basis, it is only to control you. Nothing else. Raise bogies where nothing exists. Let the fear work on you and you do your own mental calculation. And then you are subjugated to the other's will or the direction.
That is to inflate their false ego on us.
That is to control you.
Control.
Yeah, of course. And control is to receive a benefit. All control means to receive a benefit. The purpose of what else is the purpose of control? You seek to control somebody by fear. You seek to control somebody by bribes. You seek to control others by so-called love and affection. This is all bribery. No controls of that kind. Yes, discipline is a different thing. If you have a certain responsibility, a certain duty, there must be disciplining. But when you are using mistrust and fear, as some people have been using, and we have seen the results of that the people have outsourced completely their good sense, and their buddhi is brushed, alpa buddhi, very poor fund of intelligence, and they are in complete gross ignorance, maya, illusion, and they are falling headlong into a pit of darkness. Well,
For themselves?
Of course, and whoever's going there with them.
So the vision, at times that blocks the vision, then you just follow like...
Yes, because you've outsourced everything. I'm not going to think, give up this thinking process.
So that way your own personal thinking, your mind stops working? How it happens?
You give up your responsibility to someone else. Now, this is the tricky part. The tricky part is the word surrender. You hear this a lot.
Yes.
Right? Now, you are supposed to surrender to the spiritual master, for example. What does that mean? Tell me. What is your understanding of that surrender?
You agree to the teachings?
No, you're not being asked to say, yes, I endorse your teachings.
Surrender means no questioning.
Surrender means no questioning. Any other ideas? What does surrender to the spiritual master mean?
To know that what the spiritual master is doing for you.
What are you surrendering? You're only surrendering your false ego. You're not saying no questions. So this is a mistake. This is an error. This is a fraud. If people are saying you can't ask questions. No. Why can't you ask questions? You must.
Because the questions at times offend the master.
They offend why? Are you being offensive? Are you being disrespectful?
Everybody asks a question with a good intelligence or good
Okay, so
expectation.
then you're not, if you're doing that, then you're not being offensive at all. But if the other person has convinced you that even if you open your mouth to question anything or to ask, you're being offensive, then that is serious control issues and domination issues, very narcissistic behavior.
So is a master's principle is to control?
Master doesn't control you at all. Spiritual master doesn't control you.
Then who controls is not a
No.
master.
It doesn't work like that. It is entirely a voluntary relationship. It can be terminated at any point. And because it's voluntary, you tell me what is holding it together.
It's trust, faith.
Okay, trust and faith. But trust and faith needs to be renewed regularly.
At every step, at each step.
Well, maybe not at every step, but frequently, okay, even every step, faith needs to be renewed. But how will you decide that your faith is rightly placed?
Evaluation.
How will you evaluate? You don't have the spiritual understanding, otherwise you wouldn't be there. So how would you evaluate?
For the divine.
Huh?
Love for the divine.
I don't know if I have love for the divine. You say you have love for the divine. Maybe you have, maybe you don't. What is the evidence for it? What are the symptoms of it? How do you demonstrate it?
If I'm in harmony with myself and everything.
I don't know if I'm in harmony or in complete ignorance and unawareness, which you call harmony.
Because the spiritual master exactly does exactly what he teaches.
Acharya.
It is
Yes, so you have to follow that spiritual master who is seen to demonstrate what he says and does, are matching up pretty well.
Sir, there is a false vision also, because whatever is projected at times doesn't prove to be true. How can a person who is following can not accept to see what is shown?
Give me an example.
Suppose there is one thing that, okay, you do this, you will get this.
And
We are
you,
doing this for you. Some say,
okay, but do you get it? Do you get the result?
you assume that you are getting that.
No. Don't you know if you're getting the result?
But it is that is the point, sir. That maybe the results are coming because of other elements.
How? You see, this.
But there are 50% things which are coming, 50% things which are not coming, and you are happy with those 50% which are coming.
So then you need to take a step back and see if they're still coming if you step back. That's one way. That you take a step back and see if the benefits are still coming. But that again is dangerous, simply because it could be the carryover effect. It could be a delayed result. It is happening and it's going to dwindle and go away. So that's not really the evidence. So the evidence or the way you test it is through intelligence. In order to test it with intelligence, you must be knowledgeable. So the first order of business is education. You must educate yourself as to what are the principles of truth, what is the direction that we are supposed to go, and then you seek the help of others who can guide you through their own knowledge, through their own expertise if they have that. And then you have to see where it matches up. But the first thing was what you said, what all of you said, in agreement is the best, that you must seek that person as a guide who has demonstrated that they are actually following what they are telling others to follow. That is the key point. There is no illusion in that. So keep it very simple and very clear. If that person, if the spiritual master or the leader, whoever you're talking about, is not following what they're telling others to follow, be very, very skeptical. If I'm telling you don't smoke because it's bad, it will prevent your spiritual growth in addition to being a downside in health, but I go and have a smoke myself, why would you pay attention to me? Because I am not following what I am preaching. So I must do it, I must act that way, and that is the only way to demonstrate the person's bona fides. Are they doing what they're telling you to do? If it is in that zone. Of course, there may be conditions where they're telling you to do certain things where they're not involved, obviously, or they're not in that position. If you have a relationship situation, or you have a business problem, or you have a life situation problem, where they're obviously not going to have a 1:1 correlation, that's not what we are expecting. But we are talking about a general trend. That is the person practicing what they preach, basically, to be very simple about it. That is the test. There is no other test. A corollary to that test is, what are the good students who are following what the teachings of the Master are? What's happening in their lives? Because they are the fruit of the teachings, of whatever tree that the Master is growing. So if you see that the results are clear in a particular direction, good or bad, you have to decide, where you want to be, where you would rather be. Yes.
So just need your guidance on, like, you guided us and we take the guidance, we have an acceptance and agreement within our system, then we get distracted.
Yeah.
And it is quite often. And then these guidance, how do we have to keep coming back to the same faith?
I have been saying for years, and I will say it again, there is no change in my statement. You need to associate with other healers. You need to have satsang. And not a satsang, but satsang. Associate with the truth that is there in the other healers, in your God brothers and God sisters. And don't have this mistrust and anxiety and fear that, this one is going to let me down. And if you stay together with each other, you will reinforce each other. So you will be brought back online pretty fast by somebody in the group. Now you need to find people that you are compatible with. I'm not saying that everybody is going to be compatible with your energies. They are fine in their own sphere, and there is a variety, there is a different level of growth, of evolution, you can say. So you find those who are kindred spirits, and you should form friendship with them. And friends look out for each other. So don't think that you're just here, you're just knowing each other, you're coming here and then you walk out and you're wondering when is this guy going to stab me in the back? And nothing like that. Because people who are encouraging that are no more here, and they're not going to be here, I can assure you. For me personally, I'm feeling like I'm out of prison. Honestly. I'm so happy not to be focusing with this tension all the time. Of lies, of all kinds of misinformation, non-truth.
Are you consulted in any of these things?
No, not much. Very little.
But this kind of action gives the strength to other person who is doing it?
Yes, of course. It gives them a feeling of being very much in control. They feel that they've won something. It's okay. The Kauravas thought they had won. The Kauravas on the battlefield of Kurukshetra thought that they were on a winning ticket. So
they went by the numbers.
They went by the numbers, they went by the weight of the armies and their weapons and the money. And on the other side, they had the weight of the divine which overpowers everything across the entire creation. So if you have that weight with you, you are unbeatable, unstoppable, undefeatable.
Quality better than quantity.
It's not just quality, it is quantity also, divine quantity. The divine will not expand himself in an inhospitable environment. And the inhospitable environment is the false ego. So where the false ego rules, the divine is not visible or audible when the false ego is there to such a degree. So very quickly time will tell, it's like going to be clear. The more you talk to each other, I have been encouraging you to talk to each other, compare notes freely or as freely as you think you can. And you will find that, there was a big illusion being created.
But sir, those discussions or thoughts will not have any action. They will just remain where we...
No, how will you remain where you are? Because you are now knowledgeable.
No sir, that will remain within the sphere only. Those thoughts, those discussions, they are not actions. They will not convert into action.
What kind of action are you looking at?
Whatever replication, whatever one feels that, okay, now this has been happened. Happened. Now,
what action do you want to take?
No. How?
What kind of action?
Karma is going there.
No, the action of karma will come. You will see it. It is always visible. The action of karma will come in improving your life. And, if your life is going better and you're improving, and, so way down the line you may come to know that the other people are suffering in some form or the other. That's not a compensation for you. That's just evidence that, everybody is going to get their karmic consequences eventually in this life or the next or both. You're going to get it sooner or later. Karma is going to get you, as John Lennon said, Karma is waiting for you. You know that song? Instant karma. Listen to it. Listen to that song, Instant Karma. That complete synoptic view of karma. Okay. Last question. Yes.
You started off today's session by mentioning that the divine is within each of us and we choose to follow the divine and the divine supports us in that aspect. Now, some people follow the truthful path and the others...
The divine supports you in whichever path you want to follow. But he is waiting for you to actually come to him. The divine will give you what you desire, even though you may not desire it directly. He is taking you where you want to go. You have free will. That is a paramount principle. He does never interfere with your freedom of choice.
Is truthfulness a desire?
Is truthfulness a
desire?
I don't know. Is it a desire for you? I have no idea what you mean by that actually. Can you explain that?
To stay truthful in all situations?
No, either you are or you aren't. Where does the desiring come into it? Please expand that a little bit.
Desiring means that whatever the situation may be...
No, if you are saying I'm desiring, that means it's not there. The very question shows that there isn't. Or there may not be from time to time. So what exactly are you saying? We are not saying that to be truthful means you go and expose yourself and your inner workings of your mind or your feelings to everyone and all. You don't do that. That's not being truthful. That's being exhibitionist. Letting it all hang out. No, you don't let everything hang out. Not at all. No. That's not the way. You're not obliged to go around saying, Mia Kalpa, my fault. No, that's not truth. That's apology. That is something else. There's a whole psychological paradigm for that one. Truth means the ability to see the reality without filters. That is truth. And of course, direct perception of truth is enlightenment. When you touch the truth directly, it acts in its own way, and the action of the truth is that you follow that instantly. So there's no dichotomy between the truth and your action. Your action is truthful.
And that's what I wanted to ask. But my question was,
Yes.
was not correct.
Okay.
The answer is perfect.
Okay. Good. Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 You've been listening to Bhagavad Gita for All, a lecture series by Nalan Narula. Chapter 1, Observing the Armies on the Battlefield and the Consequences of War. Explore our website, gettingpositivekarmanow.com, for more on how to change your karma and destiny.